Assalamu alaikum. Good evening to everyone here. I'm really delighted to be among you all. Thank you all for coming. Sorry for keeping you waiting all this long. We were just coming on the way. We had another engagement, so unfortunately. If you're not following me, please do follow because my platforms are being censored. If you were following me and you just find yourself that you're not following me anymore, it's not because I did that. It's because Meta automatically deletes my followers. This is my second time in South Africa. South Africa is a very special place, very close place to my heart. I grew up here as a child. So coming back last year, had a lot of flashback memories from my childhood. And I'm a person who has traveled the world a lot, above and beyond, before I decided to go back to Gaza and settle. I settled back in Gaza with my husband and children since 2014. So that's when we decided that, khalas, no more traveling. We're settling there. This is where we want to raise our children. We want them to grow and to prosper. Gaza has never been a place where it's like anywhere else in the world. You can simply plan for a vacation, or you can travel for medical treatment, necessary life-saving medical treatment when you need to, or you can find it around you in the place where you live. Many sports were not available in Gaza because simply, for example, their equipment were not allowed to enter. There were times in Gaza when pasta was not allowed to enter. You know how children love pasta. And at other times, chocolate was forbidden from entering Gaza. Soda was forbidden from entering Gaza. Israel did everything it could for years to suppress, to humiliate, to dehumanize the Palestinian people in Gaza. So long before this genocide started, in October 2023, Gaza was not a place like anywhere else in the world that enjoyed freedom, prosperity, or even the simple acts of humanity that other people in the world enjoyed. But since this genocide started, our lives have completely changed. I left Gaza at the end of December 2023. In 3 months, I was displaced 6 times with my family. Maybe other families were displaced even more. I moved from Gaza City, where I live, to the southern part of Wadi Gaza, which is starting from central Gaza to the end of Rafah city in southern Gaza Strip, on foot, with thousands others. And I felt and I lived the dehumanization of the occupation, and not just any kind of occupation in the world. I don't think what Palestinians are subjected to every single day by the Israeli occupation, any other nation has been subjected to that amount of dehumanization for such a long time. And it's just like they enjoy the torture, they enjoy the dehumanization and the humiliation. But one thing that drives the Israelis crazy is the fact that these people, regardless of everything that we're trying to do to break them, no matter how hard we try, they are still there. They are still shouting out. They are still heard. They are still giving birth. We are killing thousands and thousands of them, and they are still willing to give birth to new children. They are not finishing. They are not vanishing. And this is something, this is a reality that Israelis do not want to believe, but they will believe eventually. They can take away our lives. They can kill our children. They can destroy our homes, our neighborhoods, our streets. Like over 90%, 97% of the Gaza Strip has been completely destroyed. But they can't destroy and break our resilience as Palestinian people. Because it's as simple as that. We believe that we are the true owners of that land. And so we believe that our fight is the fight of justice. We're fighting for rights, not just our rights, but the rights of our children and the other generations to come. We can't fight alone. We have been in this struggle for years and years. This genocide didn't just start 2 years ago. This genocide is a result of the ongoing injustice for over 70 years now. Why it's different for us now is because it has reached to that point where we're being slaughtered in front of the entire world, and they're watching it and they're normalizing with what they are seeing. And if we continue with this reality that we are going on with today, the Israeli occupation is going to succeed, and we are going to finish, and we are going to vanish. There will be no more Palestine. I always asked myself, why do we, as a Palestinian nation, have to fight for Al-Aqsa Mosque alone? Isn't Al-Aqsa Mosque claimed to be for all Muslims, for example? The churches of Beit Lahab, aren't they for all the Christians around the world? Why do we Palestinians have to pay that price alone of our blood to support the holy mosques and churches in Palestine? And then we get blamed if something bad happens to them, that we did not protect them. But where are the nations of the world? Every single nationality in the world are able to come and visit. You're able to apply for a visa and come to visit, while we are completely divided as a nation. East Jerusalems are divided from the occupied West Bank, and Gaza Strip is divided from the occupied West Bank, and we can't even reach each other. I can't dream of going to the occupied West Bank someday, or someone from the West Bank ever coming to Gaza Strip. I can never think or dream of the possibility of going to visit Beit Lahem or visit Al-Aqsa Mosque. That's not even, like, for me, okay, I dream and I hope and I know that nothing is ever impossible, but it's a very far away dream. When any South African can book a ticket and travel, or any other nationality in the world, but you take it for granted because you have not been deprived of that right. But we have been stripped and deprived of all our legitimate rights as Palestinians. And we still keep on fighting. And our generations, generation after another, will keep on fighting, because I now educate my children and talk to them about there must and the essential need to keep on fighting for your right to return to your homeland. So they are raised with these stories like we were raised with these stories each and every single day. We don't have any other choice. Resilience is not a choice for Palestinians. It's a must. It's just our way of life. We have come too far, and we have seen really significant changes for the first time happen in the world, where there has been great awareness among the people of the world. And the entire past year, I left Gaza at the end of December 2023. For the first 3 months, I was in the worst mental condition ever, to the point where I lost my ability to speak. I tried with therapists, one after another. I looked at the therapist and I felt like I have no words to express to you what is going on in my head and in my heart and in my soul. It's like there are no words that have been invented yet to express the rage and the sorrow and the grief that I felt coming out of Gaza. And then, what can I do? Am I going to stay like that? Live with this survival guilt that I survived and many of my colleagues were not able to come out or were not able to survive, and many families that I know have been killed? So I decided to tour the world, to raise awareness, to speak about the genocide, to tell the people about what they do not see on TVs, on their screens, on their social media platforms. No matter how painful these videos that you scroll are, they don't reflect anything of the reality on the ground. Because your pain and your hurt ends the minute you scroll past that video. Even if you cry for a couple of minutes, even if you skip a meal or two. But their pain, their heartbreak, everything that they endure lives with them. Every injured child lives in that pain, even when you sleep and you end your day. Every family that has been displaced, every elderly, every man, every woman, every child, they continue with that pain. It never ends. And it goes on. They wake up with it. And they have been waking up with it every single day for the past 2 years. We have come to the point where we say those who get killed get a respite of the torture that they are enduring. And those who are living are the ones who are unlucky because their torture continues. We're losing our strength. So now we need the people around the world to stand with us. And we've seen this. We've seen the mass protests around the world. We've seen the awareness that has been raised among the people of different nations around the world. And I always say, the cause or the story of Palestine, of Gaza, of the occupied Palestinian territories in a whole, it's a whole issue of humanity. No matter your race, no matter your religion, no matter your color, if you don't defend those human beings now, it is going to happen to you in the future, and you won't be able to defend it. Because what is being normalized now will be okay to happen to anyone else in the future. And you won't be able to speak against it because you were silenced in the first place. So why speak up now when it happens again? And so this is why we need to continue calling out for the end of this genocide. And I know it's not just the end of the genocide. And people should be aware that it's not just the end of the genocide. It's a lot more. It's an entire nation that has been completely destroyed and wiped out and eliminated. The features of an entire nation have been destroyed. And when I say the features, I mean everything that's living. Their past, their present, and their future. Because when you destroy schools, when you destroy universities, when you destroy hospitals, you are destroying the future of this nation. You're not giving them a chance to survive. You're not giving them a chance to education. You are not giving them a chance to live. You are destroying their future before it comes. I'm sorry, I can keep on speaking for hours and hours and hours and hours about this, so you just have to make me stop. Okay, so the first question about how the media coverage of the genocide has changed over the course of 2 years. Yes, we definitely see a change in the media coverage, especially by mainstream media and especially in the West, so Western media as well. There is a great shift, actually. In some cases, it's very small, and the battle goes on, but there has been a tremendous shift overall, because they're finally realizing that what they're doing is actually labeling them as complicit in front of the people, in front of the public. And that comes from the awareness and the public of the people who are no longer watching those mainstream media outlets for their news. So they are abandoning them, and that's where they have started to realize that what they're doing is wrong. It's hurting them in the first place. It's hurting their reputations. It's destroying their reputations as media outlets. And that's all happened by the power of the people. And that's where we say it's very significant. It's very significant. People themselves have started taking the headlines, you know, and pointing them out and speaking about the terminology and the language that's being used to report such incidents, you know, and speaking of how ridiculous it could be to use such headlines. This would have never changed if the people wouldn't have that great effect and that great power to put into and to speak out about everything that they see. So yes, of course, there is a change, and I know that this change has come because of the pressure of the people. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened. But let's say there are other outlets that still cling to their strategies, because, of course, unfortunately, what we've seen in these past 2 years is how much journalism has lost its integrity, and how much journalism has become a politicized tool instead of being an independent, integral tool of truth. About what we can do. It's not just, calling out for or against this ongoing genocide. But trust me, every single time there is a protest in the streets of any country around the world, you are putting pressure on the leaders, on the governments to act. Now we need the people in power to actually act, because they're the ones who have the ability to impose sanctions. They're the ones who have the ability to hold Israel accountable, to cut ties, diplomatic ties and economic ties with Israel. But the people have the power to direct their leaders and their governments, to pressure them in order to do so. They have the power to boycott and to economically cause great deficit and great challenges to these companies that are supporting Israel in its genocide. And that will definitely make a change. It will make a significant change. Actually, I believe that these big, powerful regimes, colonizer regimes, they're mostly affected by their economy. So the most thing that can actually hurt them is the boycott. And never believe it when they say that boycott doesn't really, have that strong effect on them, or it has tremendous effects. There are huge companies that have been bankrupt because of this boycott that you are practicing, because nations around the world are practicing. So yes, it counts. But I know that the action that we're all waiting for, we're all killing for, is that our leaders, the leaders of the world, would actually take action, impose sanctions, cut political ties. But that can happen by the will and power of the people. Because I've said this last year, I say this every single day in any place I go. People think they're helpless. And they think that their leaders have all the power. All the power. And this is what leaders around the world have made their nations believe and adopt that idea until they have practiced it in their daily lives. But it's not the truth, because in reality, they are the minority and the people are the majority. And majority always overcomes minority. They have been elected by the majority of the people. Yes, they keep their chairs, but they are scared and frightened to keep those chairs as much as you are afraid that they would never listen. So they will listen. And the recognition of Palestine, although until now it's just words on paper, and they wouldn't actually have a real meaning unless we see substantial actions on the ground being implemented. But where did they come from? Do you think that this change just came because those presidents and prime ministers woke up with a clean conscience now and they've decided to recognize Palestine? These stances have come because of the pressure and the power of the people. Those people protesting each and every day out in the streets. So yes, you are the ones who are making these tremendous changes. Okay, so about the two-state solution, I think that for many years, since this solution was actually adopted by the United Nations, it was presented for the Palestinians, and they agreed on a two-state solution. It was never implemented because in reality, Israel never wants a two-state solution. What Israel has wanted and still wants since the very beginning, since it set foot in Palestine and started occupying Palestine, is the implementation of Greater Israel, which does not just mean historic Palestine, the entire historic Palestine, including the Gaza Strip. It means also Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, Iraq, Egypt, Saudi Arabia. We're talking about how many countries? How many countries? We're talking about an entire region. We're talking about an entire region. So if Greater Israel, its plan is an entire region, and it's talking out loud about it. And the Israeli military soldiers in Gaza have the map of Greater Israel on their uniforms. Then who are we kidding by saying, do you approve a two-state solution? That is not a question to be asked to Palestinians. We are the ones who are occupied. We are the ones who their lands are being confiscated day after day for over 70 years. So you can't come and ask the oppressed, oh, but do you agree with a two-state solution?
Hello.
Why don't you ask the occupier if they agree for a two-state solution? Because reality on the ground will tell you that this occupier has never agreed, never wanted a two-state solution. And this is what it's doing on the ground. It is implementing actually its plan for a greater Israel. And once it's done with historic Palestine, and when I say historic Palestine, I mean all Palestine, it's going to go on with its plan with confiscating lands of other countries. So it's very difficult. I find it very irritating when someone asks a Palestinian, what do you think of a two-state solution?
Sugar.
It's not fair. How can you ask the oppressed what they think of a two-state solution? And I think Dr. Mustafa can even add to that point. So the question was, what do you think of a two-state solution for Palestinians and Israelis?
Well, there are many aspects to this question which is asked frequently. First of all, as people in solidarity with Palestine, you should defer this question to Palestinians themselves. I think that's the right solidarity approach. That's one. Second, of course, when they speak about two states, what does it mean, two states? It's another question. You can't say Palestinian statehood without removing the Israeli illegal settlements from the occupied territories. You cannot speak about a Palestinian state without Jerusalem being the capital of the Palestinian state. You cannot speak about a Palestinian state without guaranteeing the return of the Palestinian refugees according to the United Nations resolution. I heard that the Israelis are upset about this key, that the Israeli government is upset about this key, which I have here, and they were upset about Abbas wearing that key in the United Nations. Why? This key is about implementing UN resolution 194, which said that Palestinian refugees, all Palestinian refugees who were displaced in 1948 should be allowed to come home to the land they were displaced from if they want to. And by the way, the creation of Israel and the United Nations recognition of Israel was conditioned by two UN resolutions, that Israel would implement these two resolutions. One was the resolution 181, which spoke about the establishment of a Palestinian state besides Israel. And second was the 194 resolution, which spoke about the right of return. So all of these questions are about whether we can have a state or not. In reality, the basic issue here, which should be understood, is that there are 7.3 million Palestinians today on the land of historic Palestine versus 7.1 million Jewish people. What's the solution to that? Two states. Israel rejects two states. Today, Netanyahu said there will be no Palestinian state, and he insulted the 159 countries that recognized Palestine. He insulted more than 80% of the members of the General Assembly he was speaking to. So they don't accept two-state solution. So what about the second solution, which we proposed in the first place? Before there was pressure on the PLO to accept the so-called two-state solution, our main goal, national goal, was one democratic state for Palestinians and others on the land of historic Palestine. with equal rights and equal opportunities. Israel doesn't want two states, doesn't want one state. What do they want? They want ethnic cleansing. What they are exactly doing now in the city of Gaza. So the response is on the side of Israel. We prefer one democratic state with equal rights for everybody, like you did in South Africa. We like your model.
We want to follow.
But it should not be said that we, the Palestinians, refuse the two-state solution. The responsibility is on Israel, not on us, on this matter.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you for doing the work for both of us.
My pleasure.
I'll start with the question and then come back to the New York Times. It's very important to do the sport boycott. It's very important to do the art boycott. It's very important to have the music boycott. This is exactly what makes the Israelis feel the pressure and feel the price of what's happening. In my opinion, the Eurovision has created such a huge worry in Israel, more than many other things. Now the same with FIFA. But you see, what do you see here? What do we see here? You remember, since 20 years I've been talking about that. What we will have in Palestine is what you had in South Africa. It's the same course. And we've been always talking about isolating Israel through boycott, divestment, sanctions. And this is happening. And that's why I think we have to facilitate all kinds of boycott. But going back to the issue of recognition, what I wrote is that recognitions are welcomed because they affirm our right of self-determination, and also because they negate the Israeli laws that were passed that absolutely refuse our right of self-determination, specifically the state-nation law, which was passed in Israel much longer before there was 7th of October. And that law says that the right of self-determination on the land of historical Palestine, which they call Eretz Israel, is exclusive for Jewish people. It's the worst kind of racism. And here we are encountered, instead of white supremacy, with Jewish supremacy. And it's awful, it's bad even for Jewish people. The second thing is that these recognitions also negate the other Israeli law which was passed after the 7th of October, which says, not law, but actually a resolution of the Knesset, which says that there should be no Palestinian state and a Palestinian state will not be allowed to be. So from that perspective, these recognitions are important, but they're not enough. And they will not be effective. They will be just symbolic gestures unless they are accompanied by sanctions actions against Israel, specifically military embargo. Spain has already started that military embargo. Second, economic sanctions, economic embargo. That's what Colombia is doing now. And by the way, Colombia is trying to pass into the General Assembly a resolution about United for Peace, to bypass the Security Council. Great people. Today, the assistant of the president of Colombia spoke to me from New York, and he explained how they are trying to make these efforts. And we encouraged him. We issued a statement by Palestinian civil society supporting that approach. So, boycott, divestment, sanctions. Already, Norway has divested from at least any companies that work in settlements. Denmark today started to divest also from Israel. That's also very important. In addition to that, we want to see economic sanctions. And we want to see the Arab countries that normalized with Israel and that had these so-called Abraham agreements nullify these agreements as long as Netanyahu is committing these terrible crimes, including genocide and collective punishment and starvation and now ethnic cleansing. So I think the value of recognitions will not be effective unless they are accompanied by other actions, including sanctions. And that's what I said, by the way, 3 hours ago on CNN, following the speech of Netanyahu. And what happened today in the UN is historical. I don't know if you've seen the hall, completely empty. He spoke to an empty hall. I don't know of any other example of such isolation except maybe the apartheid South African regime isolation. So we are on the right track. We are in pain. We bleed. Our people are suffering a lot now in Gaza. The level of atrocity is tremendous. You know, you have to remember that up till now, 11% of the population of Gaza have lost their lives or have become injured or have their limbs amputated. 11%. If that happened in South Africa, you would be speaking about 6 million people. If that had happened in the United States of America, you would be speaking about 33 million people killed or injured. Imagine what would the United States have done if 1 million Americans were injured or killed. They would have destroyed the world probably. So, and we hear the speeches of Trump and others speaking only about the 48 Israeli prisoners, okay, or hostages as they call them. Okay, we want them all to be released. We're not fond of having them imprisoned. But why nobody says a word about the 14,000 Palestinian prisoners? Why not a single word about the 2,000 Gazans who are kept as hostages also in a horrible place called the Sidi Man, which is a terrible concentration camp in the Negev? Why nobody says a word about the 80 Palestinian prisoners in the West Bank who were tortured or allowed or died because of lack of medical treatment? Do you know that Israel is withholding up till now 550 bodies of Palestinians?
Yeah.
Including 9 women, including 17 children. You know that some of these bodies have been held by Israel since 56 years. Do you know that 33 Palestinian prisoners who were in jail and died in jail because of lack of care will be kept in custody till they finish their term of imprisonment? Which country in the world does that? And they dare to speak about rights, and they dare to speak about, I mean, it's every aspect of their behavior is nothing but a behavior of a fascist. And they are fascists. And this is a government of fascists. And that's how they should be described. And we will not be afraid of saying so. And fascist government have to be sanctioned till they drop down. And finally, one more word about, sorry that I spoke too long. One more word about the issue of one state, 2 states. The issue here is not just about ending occupation. And it's not even only about ending apartheid. It's about bringing down the whole settler colonial system. Because what we face is a settler colonial war on our people. Okay, about the problem with Israel is that we lost the so-called peace camp. And this fascist tendency, unfortunately, is not exclusive to the Israeli government. It has spread across the Israeli so-called opposition parties. And unfortunately, it has spread among the community as well. And that's why you have 75% in a most recent poll of Israelis saying they support the continuation of this genocidal war in Gaza. And there is a regression in Israel, a very serious regression. And if I was an Israeli or a Jewish person, I would feel very worried about the fact that Israel is not only isolated, but it's becoming a truly fascist place. And that would eventually affect even Israelis themselves, as we have started to see regarding the judiciary system and the violation of the rule of law and so on and so forth. So in a way, it's eating Israel even from within. Today, Netanyahu made a horrible thing to Israelis. He declared today in the United Nations General Assembly that 90% of the Israelis refuse a Palestinian state, and 90% of the Israelis support the continuation of the genocidal war on Gaza. By saying so, he helped us a lot, because that shows the whole world who keeps complaining about Palestinians who is the real devil here, you know. I just put a photo on X, what do you call X now, the Twitter, of Netanyahu in front of the completely empty hall, and I called it the devil's isolation. And I think he deserves that. But he is now telling the world that 90% of the Israelis are like that. And you don't hear strong forces, because you remember when Israel attacked Qatar and tried to assassinate the negotiating team, the first people who commented on that and praised it in a very powerful way were the opposition leaders in Israel. It was so shameful. So, about the second question regarding disarmament and so on. I think this whole talk about what will happen in Gaza and disarming people, etc., it's all about distracting the attention from what's happening now in Gaza and the terrible genocide that is happening there. At the end of the day, nobody, and then this talk about the new plans and bringing Blair to become the governor of Gaza. Blair, the war criminal who participated in the war crime of Iraq and who never apologized. Even Bush apologized. Bush apologized for saying that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, but Blair never did. And he's accused himself. Netanyahu says the Palestinian Authority is corrupt. Well, Mr. Blair is not corrupt. I mean, it's so insulting to even think they want to bring a previous British colonialist to rule us again.
A governor.
To be a governor. That is totally unacceptable. Now, what kind of state we will have, we will decide ourselves. And no conditions can be put on us. You speak about disarming Palestinians. What does Palestinians have? What kind of arms? Do we have nuclear weapons? Do we have tanks? Do we have aircrafts?
Do we have an army?
Do we have now? Hamas had few rockets. Now there are no rockets even these little rockets. We have nothing. Why? I feel very sorry when somebody speaks about disarmament and doesn't say at least, including Palestinians who say that, doesn't say at least there should be disarmament of Israel, at least on the borders with Palestine. Because who needs protection? We need protection. And what we need is really international protection force, not to be inside our land, but to be on the borders to protect us from Israel. Don't feel helpless. I mean, please, I always say to our people, our biggest enemy is to feel depressed or to feel disappointed or to feel... No, you can feel disappointed, but we shouldn't feel depressed, because depression can kill us. And I think you should not feel helpless. On the opposite. What you can do, there are many things you still have to do. The boycott is still not working enough in South Africa. In my opinion, you should also pressure the government to implement the parliamentary resolution of sending the Israeli ambassador out of South Africa. There is something to do, and you can do that. Plus other things. You can help us with other African countries. You can help us with other people. You, as people who suffered from apartheid, are the most entitled people in the world to speak against the apartheid in Palestine. And people would listen to you and help us with media. I don't know about South African media, but I suspect it's not as good as it should be. And I think, and I mean talking mainly about mainstream media, and I think we should try to work on it. I got invited to some talks with South African media, but it's mainly Islam Channel and Hilal Channel, and I don't get invited, for instance, I get invited by CNN, by BBC, by Sky News, but not by South African main media. Why? And finally, about, the last two questions are connected, about Palestinian leadership and what are the limits for the, look, first of all, support Palestinian unity. Ask for what we ask for, which is unified Palestinian leadership. Ask for the implementation of Beijing Agreement, which I personally drafted, by the way, in the presence of Hamas from this side and Fatah from that side. And they all signed it, but then the authority neglected it. It should be implemented. Now, this is the best response to answer the question about what should happen in Gaza later. The best thing is to have a government that is for West Bank and Gaza, a national consensus government, accepted by everybody. And Hamas told us they don't want to be the government. So what's the problem of having national consensus government? And then support democracy, our right to have democratic, free elections. We never had elections in 20 years. And that's the fault of the Palestinians, of the Palestinian Authority, not just the Israelis who pressure us not to have elections, and not the external world. I promise you, had we have elections in 2021, which we had agreed about by all parties, probably 7th of October would not have happened. But there was no elections, there was continuation of settlements, there was attacks on Al-Aqsa Mosque, there was horrible discrimination against Palestinians everywhere. Anyhow, I think that my message is two things: support unity, support our freedom, and support democracy for Palestinians. Our democratic right, as you did in South Africa. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.